Honey, I need you to sign these loan papers today, my wife said, sliding documents across the kitchen table. The bank called. They said something about identity verification on a $75,000 withdrawal. I froze mid-bite, fork halfway to my mouth. I hadn't taken out any loan. She smiled, but her eyes didn't match. They said it came from your accounts. Probably just a glitch, right? Just sign so they can close the inquiry. My name is Jennifer. I'm 37. I work from home as a financial analyst, or at least that's what my wife and her family thought. What they didn't know is that I spent 12 years as a forensic accountant for a major investigations firm before I switched to remote consulting to raise our daughter. I married into a family that never quite accepted me. I wasn't flashy enough, didn't come from money. My wife's mother would make comments about how I married up and should be grateful. I stayed quiet, did my work, raised our 8-year-old daughter, and kept my head down. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect, a skill set that catches people who think they're smarter than everyone else. If you've ever been underestimated because people assumed you were just quiet or just a mom, hit that subscribe button. I want to hear your story in the comments. Let's go. Let me tell you how we got here. I met Sarah 7 years ago at a charity fundraiser. She was charming, confident, everything I wasn't. She worked in marketing for a tech startup and had this way of making everyone in the room feel special. I fell hard. Within 6 months, we were engaged. Her family seemed welcoming at first, big smiles, warm hugs at Sunday dinners, but the comments started slowly. "Jennifer's so lucky to have found someone like our Sarah. Must be nice to marry into a family with connections." Her younger brother, Tyler, was the worst. He'd make jokes about my boring number-crunching job while talking about his construction business like he was building the next Trump Tower. The reality? He was drowning in debt, taking shortcuts on projects, and burning through investors faster than he could find new ones. But I loved Sarah. I thought love meant tolerating her family's subtle digs. I thought it meant being the bigger person when her mother would forget to include me in family photos. I poured everything into our marriage and our daughter Emma. Emma was my world. Bright, curious, always asking questions about everything. She loved math, just like me. We'd sit together doing puzzles while Sarah worked late or went to networking events that always seemed to run past midnight. That night after dinner, I logged into our joint accounts while my wife showered. The bathroom door was closed, steam seeping out underneath. I could hear the water running, hear her humming some pop song. Everything seemed normal, but the numbers on my screen weren't normal at all. Over the past 4 months, $75,000 had been slowly drained. Transfers to accounts I didn't recognize, cash withdrawals at branches I never visited, a loan opened in my name alone. My hands started shaking. This wasn't a mistake. This was systematic, calculated, professional. My heart pounded, but my training kicked in. I opened a secure spreadsheet and started tracing every transaction. I took screenshots, downloaded statements, cross-referenced dates and times. The first withdrawal was $3,000 on June 15th, then $5,000 on June 28th. The amounts grew larger each time. Someone was testing the waters, seeing if I'd notice. Each withdrawal happened between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on weekdays, times when I'd be focused on client work, headphones on, deep in financial reports. The next morning, I asked casually while pouring coffee, "Hey, did you notice any weird activity in the accounts?" She didn't even look up from her phone. She laughed it off. "You're the numbers person, Dave. You tell me." Her voice was light, dismissive, like I'd asked about the weather. That's when I knew she was lying. The withdrawals happened on dates she'd been home sick from work. I'd brought her soup, checked on her while she was actually at bank branches across town. The transfers were timed right after her mother's visits, those long afternoon coffee chats where they'd shut the door to the living room and talk in hushed voices. I went to my office and locked the door. My hands were steadier now. I pulled up transaction histories going back 2 years. There were smaller amounts I'd missed before, 500 here, 800 there. This had been going on longer than 4 months. They'd been stealing from me for over a year, just in smaller amounts I wouldn't immediately notice. The total was closer to $95,000. Week 1. I found an email in her deleted folder. She'd gotten sloppy, probably confident I'd never check. Drafts of messages to her brother discussing how to access more without raising suspicion. One email read, "She never checks the statements closely. Just keep it under 10K per transfer. Mom says she's too busy with her clients to notice." Reading those words felt like ice water in my veins. They'd planned this together. Family dinners where they smiled at me, asked about my day, hugged me goodbye, all while plotting to rob me blind. Week 2. At a family dinner, her mother announced loudly, "We're so proud of our daughter for managing the finances so well. Some people just know how to handle money." She was looking right at me when she said it. My wife smiled at me across the table, taunting, testing to see if I suspected anything. I smiled back and took another bite of pot roast. Inside, I was cataloging every micro-expression, every nervous glance between Tyler and Sarah. Her father sat at the head of the table, oblivious or complicit, I couldn't tell yet. Emma was playing with her cousins in the next room. I could hear her laughing. That sound was the only thing keeping me calm. Week 3. I discovered the money was funding her brother's failing construction business. Tyler's company, Premium Build Solutions, was hemorrhaging cash. I found invoices, contracts, liens against his properties. He owed suppliers over $200,000. His business partner had quit 3 months ago. The money they stole from me was being used to pay off his most aggressive creditors, the ones threatening lawsuits. They'd been planning this for months, assuming I'd never check closely because I was just the quiet one who stays home. Each day, I documented more. Bank statements, text screenshots, ATM footage timestamps showing her at the withdrawals. I even found a burner phone she'd hidden in her gym bag with messages coordinating the whole scheme. What they didn't know was that I'd already built a complete financial profile on every single one of them. I had 15 years of forensic experience. Catching fraud wasn't just my job, it was my instinct. It was in my bones. I'd traced money for criminals who thought they were untouchable. I'd found hidden offshore accounts for people who'd spent millions on covering their tracks. Sarah and Tyler, they were amateurs. Dangerous amateurs, but amateurs nonetheless. I opened a separate account in my name only and quietly moved the rest of our savings. Every dollar that was legitimately mine went into that new account at a different bank across town. I contacted an old colleague from my investigations firm who owed me a favor. Diane had been my supervisor for 8 years. She'd watched me crack cases that made federal prosecutors cry tears of joy. I sent her everything I'd gathered. "Diane, I need a certified forensic audit, full documentation, court ready." She called me within an hour. "Jesus, Jennifer, your own wife?" Her voice was tight with anger. "I'll have this certified by Friday. I'm so sorry." While they sat around laughing about how easy I was to fool, I was building a case file that would hold up in any court. I documented their patterns. Tyler's business bank statements showed deposits matching exactly the amounts stolen from my accounts, just 3 days after each withdrawal. Sarah's credit cards showed charges at expensive restaurants and designer stores I'd never heard of. She was living it up while I ate leftovers and wore the same 4 outfits on rotation to save money for Emma's college fund, the fund they'd already rated for $12,000. My ally was Diane, my former supervisor from the investigations firm. She'd watched me crack cases twice this size. She agreed to review my file and provide expert certification. But she also gave me something more valuable: contact information for 3 attorneys who specialized in financial fraud within marriages. "You're going to need a shark," she said, "someone who won't let them walk away with a slap on the wrist." I met with all 3 attorneys. I chose Marcus Chen, a guy who'd prosecuted white-collar crime for the DA's office before going into private practice. He looked at my evidence and actually smiled. "This is the most well-documented case of spousal financial abuse I've ever seen. They're done." The family grew bolder. My wife started dropping hints about re-evaluating our marriage. We'd be watching TV and she'd say things like, Sometimes people grow apart. It's nobody's fault. Her mother suggested I get a real job since I was barely contributing. She said this while sitting in my living room drinking wine I'd paid for after I'd cooked dinner for everyone. Tyler started showing up at our house unannounced, looking through our mail, asking invasive questions about my client list. They were planning their next move. I could feel it. My daughter asked why Mommy seemed angry all the time. We were sitting on her bed reading her favorite book about a girl who becomes an astronaut. Emma looked up at me with those big brown eyes and said, "Did I do something wrong?" My heart shattered. I held her close and told her everything would be okay soon. "Mommy's just stressed about work, sweetie, but I promise you everything's going to be fine. You didn't do anything wrong. You're perfect." She hugged me tighter. "I love you, Mama." I had to excuse myself to cry in the bathroom. They were stealing my money? Fine, but they were hurting my daughter with their stress and arguments. That I couldn't forgive. I could feel them circling, preparing to take everything. They thought I had no idea. One night, I overheard Sarah on the phone in the garage. I'd gone outside to take out the trash and heard her voice through the side door. "Mom says we should push for the house in the divorce. Jennifer won't fight. She never fights. We can say she was unstable, not contributing financially. Tyler's lawyer friend said it'll be easy." My hands clenched around the trash bag. They were planning to take my house, the house I'd put the down payment on, the house where I'd raised my daughter, the house with Emma's height marks penciled on the kitchen door frame. I went back inside and smiled at Sarah. "Hey, babe, want some tea?" She looked startled, guilty for a split second, then recovered. "Sure, that sounds nice." We sat at the kitchen table like a normal couple. She told me about her day. I nodded and asked questions. Inside, I was calculating exactly how I would destroy her. The next day, I installed security cameras in our home, small ones hidden in smoke detectors and picture frames, legal in our state as long as I owned the property, which I did. I needed to document everything. That same week, Tyler came over and I watched him on camera go through my office while I was supposedly out grocery shopping. He photographed documents, opened drawers, even tried to access my laptop. He didn't know I had a dummy laptop sitting out with nothing important on it. My real work computer was locked in a safe in the basement. Sarah's behavior got stranger. She started being overly affectionate, like she was trying to keep me comfortable and unsuspecting. She'd bring me coffee in the morning, kiss my cheek, tell me she loved me. It made my skin crawl. This woman who was robbing me blind was playing the devoted wife. At night, I'd lie next to her in bed, feeling her breathe, knowing she was planning to destroy me. I didn't sleep much those weeks, but I didn't need sleep. I needed justice. I gathered more evidence. I found text messages between Sarah and Tyler discussing their exit strategy. They planned to drain one final large amount, then Sarah would file for divorce, claim I was financially irresponsible, and use her family's connections to bury me in legal fees until I gave up. They'd split everything, leave me with nothing, and probably get primary custody of Emma because her family had stability and resources. That was their plan. Neat, simple, cruel. But they'd made one critical mistake. They assumed I was weak because I was kind. They assumed I was stupid because I was quiet. They assumed I'd never fight back because I never had before. I'd spent over a decade hunting people who thought they were smarter than everyone else. I didn't just find fraud, I buried people who committed it. The confrontation happened at their family Christmas gathering. 40 relatives packed into her parents' living room. Giant tree in the corner, presents stacked underneath, smell of ham and pie filling the house. Kids running around screaming with excitement. Normal family Christmas chaos. Except nothing about this was going to be normal. I'd chosen this moment carefully. Public, lots of witnesses, no way for them to spin the narrative privately. My wife's brother stood up to give a toast around 7 p.m. Everyone gathered in the living room with their drinks. Tyler cleared his throat dramatically. "To family helping family," he said, smirking at me. "Some of us carry others, and some just ride along." A few people chuckled. Sarah's mother raised her glass with a knowing smile. They thought they were so clever, so untouchable. I stood up slowly. Every eye in the room turned to me. I never made speeches. I never drew attention. Sarah looked confused. Actually, I'd like to make a toast. The room went quiet. You could hear the Christmas music playing softly from the kitchen. I pulled out a folder from my bag, a thick folder. I'd prepared 40 copies, one for every adult in that room. I started handing them out. To my wife and her brother, who stole $95,000 from our joint accounts over 18 months to fund a failing business. Her mother scoffed, but her face had gone pale. That's ridiculous. She handles the money because you're... Because I'm what? I interrupted. My voice was calm, cold. A forensic accountant who's documented every single transfer, every ATM withdrawal, every fake signature? I pulled out my phone and connected it to their TV. They'd set it up earlier for a slideshow of family photos. Instead, I showed them bank statements, transaction records, screenshots of their text messages planning the theft, ATM footage of Sarah withdrawing cash, time-stamped photos of Tyler depositing checks into his business account. The room was silent, except for pages turning as people read the documents. Sarah's aunt gasped. Her cousin's husband, who was an attorney, was reading intently, his face getting more serious with each page. I also have a certified audit from my former firm, a lawyer ready to file criminal charges by Monday morning, and a signed statement from the bank teller who processed the withdrawals because my wife forgot to wear a mask during 3 separate transactions. The bank has her on camera, voice recording asking for large cash withdrawals. Everything. My wife went pale. Her hands were shaking. Tyler started stammering. You don't understand. Your business needed to fail, which it was going to do whether you stole from me or not. I have your financial records too, Tyler. You're $340,000 in debt. You have lawsuits from 4 different suppliers. Your business partner quit because you were cooking the books. The money you stole from me, it delayed the inevitable by maybe 3 months. Sarah's father stood up. He looked old suddenly, tired. Is this true, Sarah? His voice cracked. She couldn't look at him. She was crying now, mascara running down her face. Dad, I can explain. There's nothing to explain. It's all in the documents. 18 months of systematic theft, conspiracy with her brother, and based on text messages, knowledge and encouragement from their mother. I looked at Sarah's mother. She'd gone completely white. You told them I'd never notice because I was just a housewife playing with numbers. Direct quote from a text message on page 23. People were looking at Sarah's mother now, judging, disgusted. Some were standing up to leave. Sarah's aunt threw her copy on the coffee table. I can't believe you, any of you. She grabbed her coat and walked out. Others followed. Within 10 minutes, half the room had emptied. The remaining people were family who couldn't easily leave or were too shocked to move. Sarah finally spoke. What do you want? Her voice was broken. This was the woman who'd smiled at me across the dinner table while plotting to ruin me. Now she looked like a scared child. I want full custody of Emma. I want the house, which is in my name anyway. I want a legally binding repayment agreement for the full $95,000 plus interest, secured against Tyler's business assets and your mother's property. And I want a divorce. Quietly. No drama. You sign everything, we're done. And if we don't? Tyler asked. He was trying to sound tough, but his voice wavered. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Then I file criminal charges. You both go to prison for grand theft, identity fraud, and conspiracy. Your mother potentially faces charges as an accessory. Tyler, you definitely lose your business and probably your contractor's license. Sarah, you lose your job when your company finds out. And Emma learns that her mother is a criminal. I paused. Or you can sign my agreement, pay me back over 10 years, and we all move on with our lives. Your choice. You have until Monday morning. The room was dead silent. Sarah was sobbing. Tyler looked like he might throw up. Their mother was sitting on the couch, staring at the floor. Their father had his head in his hands. I picked up my bag and walked toward the door. Then I turned back. Oh, and Merry Christmas.
I didn't press charges, but I made them sign a legally binding repayment agreement witnessed by 2 attorneys that stripped Tyler of his business assets and forced my wife to transfer full custody of our daughter to me if she ever attempted contact with Emma without my permission. The agreement included a clause that if Sarah ever tried to claim parental rights, the full criminal case would be filed immediately. We divorced quietly within 6 weeks. I kept the house, the savings I'd protected, and full custody of my daughter. Her family tried to spin the story, but the documents spoke for themselves. I'd made sure enough people at that Christmas party saw the evidence. Within days, Tyler's remaining clients had dropped him. Sarah's company let her go after the story reached HR. They lost friends, business partners, and respect in their community. Sarah's parents stopped hosting family events. The whole family fractured. Some sided with them, most didn't. I received the first repayment check 3 months later, $800. It would take them 12 years to pay back everything with interest. Every month, that check arrived like clockwork. A reminder, a scar, but also proof that I'd won. Tyler had to get a job working construction for someone else. Sarah moved back in with her parents. Her mother never spoke to me again, which was honestly a relief. Emma adjusted better than I expected. I got her into therapy to process the divorce. She understood, in her 8-year-old way, that sometimes grown-ups make bad choices. She didn't know the details, and she wouldn't until she was much older. She just knew that Mama's house was safe, stable, and full of love. We created new traditions, just the 2 of us. Movie nights, baking cookies, math puzzles at the kitchen table. She was thriving. I still work from home, watching my daughter grow up in a peaceful house. Some people mistake kindness for weakness. I let them keep thinking that. It's useful. It means they never see me coming. Emma is 10 now. She wants to be a scientist. She's brilliant and kind, and nothing like her mother. Every day I look at her and know that everything I did was worth it. She's safe, she's loved, and she'll grow up knowing that being underestimated is sometimes the greatest advantage you can have. If your partner or family ever took advantage of you financially, you know how violating that feels. It's not just about the money, it's about the trust, the betrayal, the realization that people you loved saw you as a target. Subscribe and share your story in the comments. I'm reading every one. Click hype to help this story reach others who've been betrayed by the people they trusted most in life. You're not alone in this. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments. Every hype you give this video helps empower someone else. Someone out there needs to hear that they can survive this, that they can fight back, that being quiet doesn't mean being weak. Thank you for being here and for listening. Your support means everything.